Hi, YouTube. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing today? I really hope you guys are doing great. Please comment and let me know how you're doing. This is Motivational Monday, so if you're still on the couch, get your ass up and do something. As you can see, I showered, I did my hair, I did my makeup, and I'm ready for part 4 of The Alley by Mingo Rubio Jr. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day so far. It's freezing today, but I'm inside my house, so this is my underclothes for my holiday spirit. You know, I'm about to get into this when we're done reading. I'm going to do 20 minutes today, so please join me. I might do something later too. My daughter does have volleyball practice, so please please subscribe, and thank you for everything. Let's get started. I'll set that timer. See. All right, part 4, The Alley by Mingo Rubio Jr. Under my breath, I said, "He's not my real father." Then simultaneously, they said, "What did you say?" I cleared my throat and I said, "I need some water." Then my father looked at me in a peculiar way. My stepfather looked at me in a peculiar way. He knew I didn't like him much, but I didn't care. I told him several times, and I made it very clear. He wanted to say something to me, but he didn't dare. He didn't say anything because Mr. H was near. I got a glass of water, but I didn't even take a drink. I thought of my dad and some of the times we had. I was looking out the window by the kitchen sink. I often spent a lot of time thinking about my dad. He used to work as a heavy equipment operator. There were all kinds of equipment that he'd use. I liked riding on his lap when we drove the cultivator. He used to say, "Don't get any mud on your shoes." I was very young back then, about 5 or 6 years old. I remember my dad was a hardworking man, a hardworking family man. One night he went to work and didn't come home. I was 10 then, now I'm 15. I still don't understand. In the summer months, my dad would work at night because it was too hot to be working during the day. I never went during a full moon. I don't know why. I wanted to go with him, but he would make me stay. He said that he didn't want me staying out too late, and on school nights I didn't put up much of a fuss, but the days that I got to go with him were great. I especially liked drinking coffee out of his thermos. He made me feel so special when I went with him. We used to talk a lot while I was sitting on his lap. I was so skinny he would start calling me Slim Jim, and he always had a piece of jerky under his cap. I remember the day he brought me a puppy home. He told me to take care of it and gave it a name. He said, "It'll keep you company when you're alone." No matter where I went, that puppy also came. When I went with my dad, the nights went so fast, but without you, he said, the hours went by so slow. And I miss all of the million questions that you ask. Working without you is like watching grass grow. I knew that he was lonely at night, and so was I. But I had a little dog that at least I could talk to. But he had nothing but open fields and all that sky. Then I had an idea. There was something I could do. One night I decided to put the dog in the back seat, along with the small note inside of his old lunchbox. I wrote, "The dog is old enough to keep you company, and to take good care of my dog, White Socks." It was the start of something that went for a while. He'd always asked to take the dog. I always said, "All right." I would ask, "How's the dog, Dad?" He would just smile. And sadly, he took White Socks with him that night. People said that he left because of another woman. He loved my mom, so I find it hard to believe. Some people aren't sure what happened to him. All I know is that my dad is no longer here with me. Finally, after 4 years, my mom remarried again. She said that she was tired of waiting for so long. She married my stepfather, my dad's best friend. I don't know if that's good or bad, or right or wrong. I know his departure left her in a state of shock. People told her that she would be a fool to wait. Then she became angry at him from all of that talk. It's true, there's a thin line between love and hate. I didn't believe it. He just wouldn't leave us like that. And my dad's best friend just happened to be near. You know what they say about feeding a stray cat. One day he came to visit, and the guy is still here. Then Mr. H said, "Stop daydreaming, kid. We gotta go. We'll check on Petey on the way to the priest. I said, okay, right after I eat some chorizo con huevos. He said, forget it. We'll get something at Mickey D's. Before we left, a friend came walking up the block. He started to ask me a few questions about Petey. Mr. H said, come on, kid, we don't have time to talk. I said, tell the guys we'll meet later at the apple tree. We went to McDonald's and got a couple of meals, and we ate in the van on the way to the hospital. Then I said, Mr. H, I can't imagine how you feel. As for me, I'm overwhelmed. It's so unbelievable. He said, you know, my son talks a lot about you. If he's not saying one thing about you, it's another. He said, you guys hang out a lot after school, and I somehow wish that you were his brother. The conversation that we had went on for a while. I told him that Petey was like a little brother to me. I told him stories about Petey that made him smile. I guess me talking about his son made him happy. It reminded me of my father and the times that we had. You're the apple of my eye, was what he used to say. I felt so compelled to ask Mr. H, you knew my dad. Can you help me understand why he went away? Suddenly, I could tell he was emotionally touched. He just sat there stunned as I poured out my heart. I said, Mr. H, I miss my father. I miss him so much. Thinking of why he left us really tears me apart. Gosh, I might cry. If anyone knew why my dad left, it would be you. I remember when our families would get together, along with all the homies at the family barbecues. I still remember your guys' motto, homies forever. Mr. H, why would he leave us and never come back? He was here one day and suddenly gone the next. Not even a goodbye or nothing. He didn't even come back. He didn't even pack. Crying, I said, Mr. H, where did he go? What the heck? At that point, he looked too choked up to speak. As he turned away to wipe the tears from his face, he put his hand on my shoulder to comfort me. He broke his silence by saying, we're at the place. As we walked up, we saw Ralphie smoking outside. Mr. H said, that's a nasty habit. Why don't you quit? Ralphie said, I can't count how many times I've tried. I know they're expensive as hell and smell like shit. As he put the cigarette out, he turned to look at me. He said, hey, you were here yesterday, is that right? I said, yes, I came with Mr. H to see my friend Pete. I said, I was with Petey when all this happened last night. Then he introduced himself as Dr. Ralphie Madrid. Then he asked me my name. I said, Mingo Rubio. Then he blurted out, this is Domingo Rubio's kid? Oye, ¿sabe el chamaco? Mr. H said, no, todavía no. Mr. H noticed that I was listening rather intently. He abruptly told the doc, hey man, we'll talk later. Then suddenly they shut up, which kind of bothered me. Their mouths were closed tighter than an alligator. The way the doctor reacted to my name was disturbing. All of a sudden they spoke Spanish. It was weird. It was the second time I felt Mr. H was hiding something. I thought to myself, what the hell is going on here? I said, excuse me, doc. What? Did you know my dad too? He hesitated as if he was thinking of what to say. Then I said, because I really don't remember you. He timidly said, yeah, I knew him back in the day. In fact, we grew up together on the same old street. We moved when my dad got a job in another town. But we always used to hang out at the apple tree. By the way, kid, is that creepy old thing still around? I said, yes, I used to hang out with my dad there, hoping somehow it would redirect our conversation. He was trying to change the subject, but I was aware, thus adding to my confusion about his hesitation. Mr. H noticed that and said, Doc, how's Pete doing? As we walked in his room, the doctor said, no change. When we got there, we were like buzzards looming. After a while, I noticed something a little strange. It looked like the wounds on his body were healing. The cuts were closed up, leaving nothing but a scar. It looked like his skin was so dry that it was peeling. And then I touched his skin. It felt leathery and hard. Ralphie said, the lack of fluids makes the skin rough, but my nurses spray water on him every hour or so. We've had to lower his body temperature enough to slow down circulation, to decrease blood flow. He went on, and then Mr. H said, that's enough. He said, man, you lost me at blood flow decrease. But I'm sure glad you know all this medical stuff, but now it's time that we went to visit the priest. And I'd better call to see if that old man is home. I'd hate to drive all that way just for him. I'd hate to drive all that way and just wait for him. He asked Ralphie if he could use his office phone. Ralphie said, "Sure, and say hello to Mr. Kim." Then Mr. H told me, "Hey, go wait for me in the van while I go in the doctor's office and make this call. I'll be out in a few minutes just as soon as I can." I knew that they were going to finish their little talk. I was kind of upset, but I didn't know what to do. I just sat there thinking a lot while I was waiting. I thought to myself, what are they hiding from you? I tried to figure it out, but it was very aggravating. In my anger, I wrote a note and I left it on the seat. I wrote, "I'm sorry for what happened to your son. I don't understand what you're keeping from me, and I don't deserve this, not by you or anyone. And this is a good time as for any for me to go. I can't take it anymore, hoping for what I once had. I have to find out why my dad left. I have to know." It concluded with, "I'm going to look for my dad." I got out of the van quickly and closed the door. Mr. H would have to go visit the old priest alone. I had some cash with me, but I needed a lot more, and that meant that I would have to go back home. I took off running as fast as I could down the street. After a couple of blocks, I stopped to take a look, and sure enough, Mr. H was looking for me. I was scared and nervous. I kind of felt like a crook. I figured Mr. H would leave me after reading that note, but just in case, I found me a good spot and hid. And after a few minutes, I heard him getting close. Suddenly, I heard him calling, "Where are you, kid?" His desperate calls to me were loud and clear. It kind of made me feel bad at what I had done. And then I came out of hiding and said, "I'm right here." He ran to me and asked, "Why the heck did you run?" I said, "I'm real sorry, Mr. H, that I took off and ran. I was so angry with the way everyone was acting." Then I noticed my note was clutched in his hand. He said, "It's okay. I would have done the same thing." I said, Then why don't you tell me what's going on? Why people act strange when I ask about my dad? Is it really true what they say, that he did us wrong? And if I bring him up, it's as if I said something bad." Then he said, "I can't do it anymore. It's just no use. I really don't know how to tell you or where to start. I wish there was a way to say it without hurting you. But let me say, hiding it from you breaks my heart." I said, "So you know where my dad is, where he went." I just sat there waiting for what he was going to say. I said, "Come on, tell me. Don't keep me in suspense. What's the truth? Why did he leave us and go away?" He said, "Your father loved and cared for you both, and him leaving for another woman, that's just a lie. But people will talk when they really don't know, and to hurt you and your mom, he would rather die." I said, "Wait a minute. If he didn't go, where's he at?" Suddenly, he pulled out a keychain that I had made. I said, "I made that in school. Where did you get that?" "Wait a minute. I gave that to him for Father's Day." I immediately knew that something wasn't right. Suddenly, Mr. H puts his hands on my shoulders. He said, "I should have told you that very first night, but I wanted to wait until you were a little older." As he started to tell me what I had long awaited for, I listened very intently to every word that he said. He started crying. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Then he said, "I'm sorry, son, but your father is dead." I don't want to accept what the man is saying. I just sat there for a few seconds in total disbelief. In an attempt to escape reality, I said, "Quit playing." And then suddenly, I started crying uncontrollably. My whole life was now crumbling all over again, and after years of rhetoric, I finally knew the truth. He said, "Let it out, kid. I'll tell you what happened, but be assured that your father always loved you." He let me cry until no more tears would come out, and then I stopped crying. He started up the van. He said, "Now I'm going to tell you this is about, but I'm going to do it on the way to see the old man." He started telling me about the night my dad left. He said after work he was going to come over. I just sat there listening, trying to catch my breath. He said a few of us were going to play a game of poker. He was cultivating fields close to an old panteon. I said, "Wait a minute, you mean the old cemetery?" That's the one right next to the alley, the callejon. He said, yes, the very place that he is buried. I said, you buried him there? What about the funeral? He said, there really was no funeral. Well, not yet. In fact, there's only a handful of people that know. I said, I don't understand. Why was it kept a secret? He said, you will, kid, when I tell you the reason why. I remember the story I told you about the beast. I said, wait, are you telling me that's how he died? He said, yes, your father was attacked like Pete. I said, how do you know that? How can you be sure? He said, because I found him lying on the road. Your father told me he was attacked by a creature. He was torn to pieces. I had to get him to the hospital. He told me as much as he could before blacking out, but what he had told me, I just could not believe. I knew questions would arise of this. I had no doubt, and I knew eventually it would involve the police. I abruptly said, but how in the world did you know? He said he was supposed to come over that night, and I became very concerned when he didn't show. Then I got a strange feeling something wasn't right. He said, what we had to do wouldn't take very long. Your dad told me earlier where he was going to be, so I went to go look for him to see what was wrong. I saw his pickup parked in the road by the alley. As I pulled up closer, I couldn't believe what I saw. Something was attacking him. He was on the ground. Then it ran back to the alley carrying a little dog. All I heard was the screeching of that little hound. I ran to your father who was lying there in the dirt. I could see that he was badly cut, just like my son. I said, we've got to get out of here. You're badly hurt. Your dad said, help me to my truck to get my gun. I said, there's no time for that now. We've got to go. He could hardly walk, so I carried him to my van. He said, I've got to go back in there por el perrito. I said, I'm sorry, Mingo, but the dog is gone, man. I interrupted him and said, White Sox is dead too? He said, yeah, if that's your dog, he's dead as well. Your dad felt bad. He knew it meant a lot to you. He said it actually tried to protect him when he fell. Mr. H said, as I carried him, we stopped on the road. He said, stop for a second. I need a little breather. Then he stumbled. I told him to grab a hold. He said, man, I can't believe this. I said, me neither. As we left, we could hear the beast howl and cry. I said, hey, Mingo, I thought that creature was dead. He said, what the hell is going on here, Pete? So did I. He said, what the hell is going on here, Pete? So did I. I said, I thought we killed it after it attacked Fred. We didn't understand how the creature could return, and somehow he resurrected and came back to life, because after killing it, the damn thing was burned. We even decided to cut its head off with a knife. As Mr. H continued to talk, I was totally devastated. Then I asked him, but why in the world did he go in? How did he get in there? Wasn't it locked and gated? Mr. H said it wasn't gated or locked before then. Your dad told me that the dog went looking around. He said probably to check out noises that it heard. When he arrived, the dog was nowhere to be found. He heard it barking inside and it made him nervous. He said that he went in the alley with the high walls. Then he heard the dog kind of whimper with fear. He said he saw the creature looking for the dog. He said, I got a good look at it, man. I saw it clear. Then the dog came to me and picked it up and ran. Just then the creature ran and jumped on my back. I had no weapons with me at all, just my bare hands, but I had no idea that I was going to be attacked. I didn't know that I would be in a fight for my life, and it's kind of weird what went through my mind. All I could think about was my son and my wife, and I wish that I could see them one more time. The dog came to my rescue and joined the fight. He actually jumped on its back so I could escape. When you drove up, the creature saw your lights. Just then, it bit the little dog and carried him away. Mr. H said, I took him to a clinic that was close. Right then, it didn't really matter where we went. Suspicious questions from the doctor soon arose. The doctor asked, what happened? I said, an accident. He said, these cuts on his body seem kind of weird. He asked, what kind of equipment was he operating? I've never seen cuts like this before in all my years. I said, I'm not sure, but I think he was cultivating. Like Petey, they hooked him up to all kinds of stuff. He went into shock and his heart began to palpitate. They did all they could, but it still wasn't enough. He went into cardiac arrest. I knew it was too late. Then they used a defibrillator. Defibrillator. Then they used a defibrillator to shock his heart. His body rose up off the table. Then it went thud. They tried a couple times, but it still wouldn't start. The doctor said, it's no use. He's lost too much blood. Mr. H said, I couldn't believe my friend was dead. I was too much of a coward to tell you the news. I made up a story. I should have told you the truth instead. If you never forgive me, kid, I wouldn't blame you. It took a little while for all that to finally sink in. Then I said, but my mom thinks that he went away. She still believes that he left us for another woman, and for that reason, she has carried all of this hate. Then I noticed that he bowed his head right then. Suddenly, it seemed that he got a little emotional. I said, say something, man. He said, give me a second. Then he said, kid, this is hard on me too, you know. I said, are you saying this bothers you now for real? Then he quickly noticed a look of anger on my face. I said, put yourself in our shoes. How would you feel? How could you let us live a lie all this time anyway? I said, tell me, man, how could you be so insensitive? I just found out the real truth after so many years. Not only did he leave us, but he no longer lives. You knew the truth all along. Now you shed tears. My meaningless life has just been shattered to bits. What reason for hope do I have to cling on to now? Now that this involves your son, you give a shit, and you think our lives will be better somehow. I was so mad that I told him to stop the damn car, and if he didn't, I was going to jump the hell out. Oh, man, things are getting heated. Heated. I hope Pete doesn't die, though, because I don't want Pete to die. Thank you so much for being here this long. I really appreciate you hanging in there with me and listening to part 4 of The Alley. I'm going to get my Christmas spirit on right now. Please join me. This is the matching tattoo we got my daughter for me and her 16th birthday. My daughter's 16th birthday just this past November. I love tattoos. All right, let's get this going. All right, y'all, what you think? Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday. Please like, please subscribe, and please comment. Please tell me what you think, and tell me how your day's going. Thank you, universe. Thank you, God, and thank you, YouTube.